Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Just echoed today. I'm Elias, and I'm joined by Christie Casciano-Burns and Mike Bonelli, and today we're diving into a topic that doesn't get talked about enough, the mental load of being a hockey parent. We all feel it. We all feel the pressures, the anxiety. We also feel the elation, the joy. We feel that Sunday night drive home after a loss thinking I've got a whole week of work. And sometimes it's, I'm glad we won tonight because we have a whole week of work. We know about all of it, the logistics, the early mornings, the travel, the meal planning, the equipment chaos, the registration forms, and everything else that fills the calendar. That's not even all of it. But underneath all that is an emotional calendar too. Managing your child's confidence, their nerves, the pressure, the burnout, as well as your own expectations and anxieties, as I said before, not to mention just life in general. You got to live. So today we're pulling back the curtain on what that really feels like. Let's have an open discussion about it, how we can all do a better job supporting ourselves, because you do matter, parents, and our players who we all care about so very much. That's what we're talking about today on Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm going to throw it first to my friend Christie here. Christie, let's just talk about the mental load of being a hockey parent.
Mental load. And I liked what you said about expectations, because I think more and more parents are placing ridiculous expectations on their kids. Right. And I just want to advise parents to stop before you ruin your relationship with your kids. They're going to make mistakes. It's okay for them to fail. They're going to mess up. And I think not enough parents are willing to accept that. Way too high expectations. Yeah.
Isn't that the whole point of youth sports, is to mess up and figure it out? You know, I'll start here. A mother of one of my son's teammates, who I really adore, came up to me at a game recently, and she's just so chill and calm all the time. She's got multiple kids in the sport. And she said to me, you know, it's just really a hobby. And I just kind of loved the approach of how laid back that was. And I could see people, that's not a hobby. It's all these, look, I know what she meant, which is this, why are we taking this so seriously? It's like, and I just like that she comes to the rink with that kind of attitude. Now, with that said, and this isn't a bad thing, she obviously never played hockey, right? She never coached hockey. Her husband is one of the coaches on the team, great guy. But we do assign so much more to this than we need to. It's not limited to just hockey. We should always say that. Our producer, Caitlin, always reminds us she played softball at the collegiate level. Like, all sports exhibit this in some form. But in our game, parents, coaches, players, we do have to take a minute and just kind of sit back and relax. But we do have to look at that mental load and compartmentalize it. And I think where I want to start, gang, is why do we as adults overlook what I'm talking about? Why do we ignore it? Now, the psychological side of this goes well beyond hockey. Like, we're not therapists. We're not going to dive fully into that. But let's just talk about it as hockey parents. Why do you think we kind of push that aside and keep drudging ourselves through the mud sometimes emotionally?
Bonelli's chomping at the bit here. Let's go.
No, I'm so envious of people who don't care at games. It's really, they're like, whatever happens. The kids are having fun. So I really do enjoy that part of it. But I think a lot of it, because hockey, and it is all sports, I would agree with Caitlin that, you know, every sport has its level of anxiety and pressure, and like you're feeling that you're not doing enough for your kids, and, you know, offering enough opportunity for them to get better. But I think in the hockey end of it, it's so more exposed because of the money and the financials of it. It's a long season. I mean, you know, most of it, like in the Northeast here, these seasons, they really start in April, right? April or May, and they end in April and May. So it's like
only 12 more months to go. That's what I keep saying to people. Only 12 more months to go.
So I think that when you start putting money down for anything, and because you see the same anxiety out of, you know, piano proteges and chess masters and equestrian, and anytime you're spending crazy amounts of money and time, and there comes an ROI with that, and whether you want to fight it or not, like, it's like, well, is that really an ROI? Like, this is the ROI is I have great, you know, my children learn all these great aspects of what sport is supposed to provide. But I think there is so much anxiety because of the money you spend. That you're like, well, is it really worth it? And I want to make it worth it. So I'm going to do what I can as a parent to kind of drive myself a little crazy because I got to give up my time and my effort and the opportunities maybe that I want for our family, I'm putting into this sport.
I think you're absolutely right. I think money has a lot to do with the drive. And sometimes we overlook some of the basics, the rewards that are there for your kids. Like the hustle effect. If my kids were out there and they were really hustling every game, then those were meeting my expectations. That was meeting my expectations. That and good sportsmanship. There's so many characteristics that I think ought to be your level of expectation rather than be purely on just if they're meeting your expectations.
Yeah, look, I'm going to dive into both of those things, and Mike, I'm going to add on one more thing from the money standpoint too, is that the game of hockey is such a pressure cooker game. And what I mean by that is, look, there's 12 athletes on the ice. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. 12, my bad. 12 athletes on the ice Monday morning, people. It's an enclosed space. Everyone's moving very fast. It's a pressure cooker. And I'm not saying that the other sports don't have pressure cooker moments, but I will say from experience, hockey is consistently a pressure cooker. So that adds to the level of anxiety, right? And my wife always talks about it in a nice way of the cult. This is the cult, right? We're in the cult. And I always joke, she's not wrong. Like, we are our own people during the season and not on the outside of the season. But Christie, you bring up a very interesting point. And I'm going to, use my own experience. When we started this show, my son was just starting out. And I think I'm in my 6th or 7th year now. And parents listening, especially for younger kids. And I'll tell you and Mike this, Christie, is that I'd say my anxiety is really dropping rapidly now, right? In the sense of I had it the last few years. I think it was managed, but this season specifically, I'm feeling less and less. And I think that's just because I hit a point of extreme understanding of what this is. And that's what I'm going to talk about here. And it's a behavioral experiment for your kids to become better humans. And I think when I got in real touch with that and I added the patience to it, that's why I'm pretty calm now with things. And I'll give you a great example. Again, my daughter, right? My daughter is 9, and I love coaching her. I love watching her play more than anything. But like most kids at 9, some games she shows up and it's like, wow, you played, you did everything out there. That's amazing. And the very next game she might show up and there might not be an iota of that effort. And it can be easy as a parent to be like, well, you just did this last game. How come you're not? Because she's 9. And that's part of growing up, is understanding it. So what I focus on, and parents, this is my advice, I'm never focusing on the outcome, the score, the points. I'm focusing on the behavior. And I think that's something we don't do enough when it comes to the emotional load. The behavior is, hey, your work ethic was not the same. Why do you think that is? Never do this in the car ride home, by the way. Right? These are just conversations.
That's right. No car ride home
yeah.
Conversations.
Yeah. I'll do this at the appropriate time. And I'll really listen to her. And what I find is that she's actually listening to me. All right. And look, every kid grows and learns at a different rate. When you get a grip on that, and you can start looking at the hockey journey as this is a massive journey and not what just happened 5 seconds ago, I do believe the anxiety drops, right? This is a process. They are becoming human. I mean, they're kids trying to become young adults with all of life's things. Look, adversely, my son, right, who never had a hard time working hard. There's other distractions in his life now, and he's having to learn to compartmentalize them. Is it frustrating? Yeah, sure. Right? Like, I want to see that effort into everything, but he's 11 going on 12. There's a lot of changes happening right now. I've got to be respectful of that and see the macro. So all I'm trying to say is kind of maybe as a first step is there's a macro world, there's a micro world, right? We have to be able to see the macro side of the growth and the ROI. And your kids are going to be jerks sometimes, and they're going to mess up. And that's part of the process, right? I think if they weren't doing that, I mean, there's no perfect parents out there. I don't think there's any perfect kids, right? I mean, are there any listeners out there who really believe their kid's just perfect all the time and wonderful and there's no issues ever? Like, because that doesn't exist. And I'm saying that, parents, to appease all of us. So focus on the behavior, right? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't, I'm going to throw it back to all of us here. If you don't focus on behavior, you're going to start guilting your kids. You're going to start, making them feel bad when they miss a game. You're going to start missing life events for hockey. And I actually don't agree with that. I think there are some things that trump hockey. and that can also add to the emotional stress as well, right, gang?
Right. Oh, yeah. Last thing you want to do is start guilting your kids, because once you start doing that, you're going to see them start to pull away from you and the game. They could be really detrimental. And Mike, you've seen it with your own kids. There is inconsistency. Some games they look like superstars, and other games they're not. And sometimes it's hard to accept that. Well, why weren't you, playing like the last time you played? There's a lot of different things going on in them. They're growing up, and you got to give them some space.
Well, how about this too, Mike? Why can't you be great every single day? That like we put this on our kids. Like, you got to play great, Mike. I'm sure you're great every single day. Christy, you've never had a bad day in the newsroom, right? I mean, it's like we don't.
It's a bad day in the newsroom.
Yeah, no, it's funny, right? When you're coaching, when you're a parent and you're a coach and you're on the bench and you get to, that's one of the kind of cool things about coaching is you have to find the kids that are on their game that day. You have 15, 16, 17 kids, and you get to say, oh, wow, these 3 kids, they're just kind of, they're fading off. And these 3 kids are really coming and they're helping the team and they're focused and they're ready. I mean, a lot of times you can tell that, even me as a parent, when I'm sitting in the stands, I mean, when you're going to have a good game with the kids, right? When like kids are hitting the net and they're hitting pads and they're making passes, you don't hear like glass shots. You can see, when kids are on. And I think that, but you have to give the parent the opportunity. You as a parent have to sit back and say, okay, well, this anxiety is not on me. I mean, I tried to make sure my kid had a nutritious breakfast. I tried to make sure they, got to sleep on time. I tried to make sure they were all prepared. Like, and we've talked about this all the time, right? Like, don't pack your kids' gear. But it depends on who they are and what age they are and what kind of executive functioning skills they are. We have to help and guide them. And so we can help that relieve the stress of just being ready to go to a game. That's going to help me as a parent say, okay, well, I tried to prepare as much as I can here, but now I'm going to have to put my hope in my child that he or she is going to, fulfill our obligation today to work hard and produce some good effort, not to score 15 goals. And you're going to have bad days. And that's why you play for 6 months, 7 months, right? I mean, we've talked about this a number of times on the show that you cannot define your kid and their season by one weekend. Never. And that's going to happen all the time. You're going to come in and out.
And none of us would want that either, Mike.
Right.
No, don't define me on my worst day. I mean, please.
Never. You never have any bad days. But I think the other element that we have to consider is fun too. I mean, if your kids aren't having fun, why the heck are you putting them in sports to begin with, right?
Well, and the thing is, Chrissy, what I've been finding lately is that you could go in with that attitude, like you should be having fun, but people they forget like that. Well, you're not having fun unless you're winning, and that's true. Yeah, it's true to a certain extent, but there's so much more that the sport is supposed to be able to provide our kids. And unfortunately, that's lost on the parent that no longer has a kid playing. You come to that revelation when you're like, oh crap, I missed those 9 years. Like I missed all of those things that were going on, and you don't remember all the bad losses. You just don't. You don't remember. You can't think in your memory bank and go, oh, remember that Saturday morning at 6:30 when we went to Syosset and you had a horrible game. You don't remember those. But you do remember.
That was a very specific memory, though.
Well, I remember. I remember. I remember
that brain forever. I'll never forget that game. Yeah,
I'm going to remember that game. But there are certain, there are certain aspects of you talk any pro athlete you talk to, right? That's what they'll talk about. What do they remember? I remember the locker room. I remember dinners. I remember team road trips.
People, you remember the room.
I remember all the things.
Remember each other. Yeah.
And you as a parent, Christy, you said this a million times. Like you remember the people you did bake sales with, and you went on road trips with, and you stuck it out over Thanksgiving and Christmas breaks with, and everybody else was enjoying their family. Your family was the hockey family, and I think that's and so being around other people that have stable, attitudes about the game just will help you have a better attitude about the game, I think.
agree. Surround yourself with like-minded people is a lot easier, and then you can kind of pull away from the negative Nellies, and they're going to be every team. You're going to have that core always chiming in on what's wrong with the coaches and what's wrong with the team and what's wrong with the goalie. And you just have to separate yourself from that and just focus on what's best for your kid.
I wrote this down. There's that great quote from The Office of, I wish someone would tell us that we're in the good old days when we're in the good old days. And that's another part of the puzzle here, my friends, is that youth hockey is the good old days, right? And if there's anything Christie has taught both Mike and I, is these days are fleeting. Christie's kids are both out of the house and in real world, out of college, moving on. And from day one, the advice was, look, and you better enjoy every second of this. And I'm blessed that I just had that awareness to do that. I feel like I have been doing that because I really have real positive memories and experiences. There's some bad ones too. Don't get me wrong. That's anything in life. The other thing I wrote here that's along the lines of what we're talking about, parents, because I want to give some advice to people listening, because I think they feel the bear of that weight, that emotional weight. Something I tell the kids on the bench sometimes, really at multiple age groups, is, hey, we got to change what the win is here, right? I know we want to win the game, but let's change the win. The win could be winning your shift. The win could be just having a hardworking shift. I think as parents and even as coaches, change what the win is, right? The win shouldn't just be the outcome of the game. There's so little control over that as the team. In the stands, you have literally zero control. And Mike and I know this, that the parent who's yelling for their kid to skate hard, I hate to tell you this, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, you have zero control over what's happening on the ice. None. It's not affecting it. It's only going to hurt us. I don't know any game where I've gone to the stands at any level and gone, buddy, when you yelled that to our player, that's why we won the game today. It just doesn't happen. So
no, but there are a million examples of doing that, and you've lost the game because the player now is like looking at you and looking at the coach, and the goalie's looking up, and everybody's looking
where
around.
I was going.
Like and I think this is where you look at everybody. Like even when you go to we go to a lot of Ranger games where I live, right? So we get to go sit in the stands and hear 15,000 people tell people to pass and shoot and wonder why they're not getting in front of shots. I'm like, you go get in front of that shot.
Yeah,
you crazy.
Yeah.
But
you got to get in front of that, man.
But it's funny when you see that emotional piece. Like, I often look at it like I used to think that the mental health part of parenting was that an ex-pro or somebody that played the game at a very high level. I always thought that person would have a better perspective on like what the meaning of that game is. And over the last 30 years, I found that that's just not the case.
Yeah.
It's like, what happens is I think that people look at that ex-pro and they see the way they're acting. They're like, oh, that must be the way to get there. And we all know that's not the way to get there, but it's just that feeling that you could see the anxiety in a parent and the way they act in the stands. And you just can't get drawn into that. You can't.
So, Mike, we have a question written down here that's right along the lines, and it's a great question. And this is one of those questions for both of you that there's not going to necessarily be a correct answer, but there's a great discussion to have here. And it's, how can parents model emotional resilience and balance when they're feeling overwhelmed themselves? So I love that question, because your kids, look, we kind of know anxiety across the board is higher now in the youth, whether we want to scoff at that or not. There's more anxiety now than there was in the past for whatever reason. So how are we as adults supposed to exhibit the behavior we want to see? And I would say we're not overall doing a fantastic job at that.
No,
right?
we're not.
Yeah. And
I got to tell you, I hate seeing kids throwing temper tantrums out there on the ice. I will never forget the time where a kid thought that the ref made a bad call and put him in the penalty. He took his stick and he broke it over his helmet. His mom was sitting right next to me. She goes, I just bought that $325 stick. And she went down there and said, you're done.
Good.
Pulled him right off the ice. Pulled him off the ice. He was done for the game.
Good.
Done for the game. And I applauded her. Boy, he never did that again.
Yeah, I hope he got a wooden stick after that too.
So Exactly. You're skating with a wooden stick. There you go.
Right.
So yeah, we have to model good sportsmanship, obviously, in the stands. And kids, if they're not after a game, if they lose and they're not fist bumping the other teammate, if they're throwing temper tantrums, you've got to cut that behavior as soon as you see it. Cut the head of that snake right off.
Here's one that gets me looks. Here's one that gets me looks. Mike, I think you'll understand this one as a coach. Christie, you will too. But it gets looks. I'll compliment the other team when there's a big save or a great pass or even a nice shot. Now, I don't cheer, but I'll say, like, man, that was a great play. That was a great save. And it's because, parents, my mind is very developmental, hockey focused at the youth ages. So when I see a great play, I can appreciate it. Doesn't mean I want the other team to beat my kid's team, right? And again, I'm not suggesting, I got to say, I'm not suggesting you all do that. This is me. But I get looks like, what are you cheering for the other team? No, I appreciate good hockey plays at the youth level. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of want my kids to see that and learn from it because they'll learn more from understanding that. My son is a goaltender. When a kid makes a great move and a great shot, the result of this kind of thinking is I watch my son now kind of react to that and say, okay, what happened there? He compartmentalizes it. He actually you'll see him practice the save he didn't make, and he'll get back in the game. So he can appreciate a good shot. He doesn't like being scored on. All right. But I'll tell you what, he's not breaking his stick over the net when there's a goal. He's not blaming his teammates. I'm really proud of the way he's handling that this year.
That's great. I love to hear that. Yeah, not enough kids and not enough parents are instilling that in their kids. Well, there's so much negativity up there, and then you see it play out on the ice.
Well, Christie, I'll tell you this, and I hope this does not come across as bragging. It's not. The thing that I am most proud of, I think, as a parent, is that when I'm in the stands, right, on the bench is a different territory, but when I'm in the stands, specifically my son, right, because I'm on the bench a lot with my daughter, he only looks to me for reassurance or like he'll actually salute me. Like it's like just saying hi. He never looks at me in moments of what's dad going to think, like, because I made a mistake, right? When the puck goes in, he looks at me for like the thumbs up or reassurance. I'm proud of that. That's the relationship I want with my kid. Now, look, that's me. I'm not really trying to tell anybody how to parent, like, because I know there's other parents who don't have that relationship with their kid, and there's parents who think that that's correct. I do not agree with you, and that's okay. We don't have to agree. But that's what I'm most proud of, okay, is that my son's not looking at me in fear. My daughter either, by the way, when I coach. All right. And they want to learn. And look, I've had to have the conversations with them over the years, just so you know, this hasn't always been like this. They'd come back to the bench and I'd be coaching them. Remember, I'm coaching them, and I'd start to get pushback. And what I do is I sit them down and say, I'm not criticizing you as a person. I'm coaching you. I'm trying to teach you to be better. Do you understand? And they go, okay. Yeah, like I said, it's like at first it's like, well, you're criticizing my game. Well, you turn the puck over in the middle of our zone. I have to coach that. That's a problem. Okay. Yeah. I'm not criticizing you as a person. We don't have that conversation enough. It's just you made a mistake. And look, I've seen kids cry on the bench with their parents yelling at them. All right. Which I will tell you, that is incorrect. That should never happen. Okay. I do not agree with that. Right. I think that's a problem. But look, I'm going to say this too, kind of keeping us back on track. It takes a village, right? Mike will laugh at this. Something you learn in coaching by year 2 or 3, again, I've been doing this 6 years, is your kids are more likely to listen to the other coaches on the bench than their parents. So we end up tag teaming it, right? I've had so many conversations. Can you tell my kid this? And they go, can you tell my kid this? Like we trade, it's like trading cards. Like, yeah, okay, I'll fix this problem. And they listen to the other person. Super normal. The reason I'm bringing that up, parents, is that if we have to do that as coaches, what do you think they're responding to when you tell them they did something wrong? Right? It takes a village. It takes a village. Go ahead, Christie.
Right. And a lot of times when my kids ask me my opinion on how they were doing, I'll throw it back. How do you think you were doing? I love it. And we'll have that conversation. And then they say, well, what do you think I could do to do better? I said, you need to talk to your coach, or go to, someone who knows what they're talking about, because and I want them to find the answers on their own,
Love it.
Yeah. So do your homework, do your research, talk to people you trust.
Advocate.
It's like, advocate for yourself.
Yeah. That's a life skill.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you think the coach isn't being fair to you. Mom, the coach, how come I didn't get to play this game? Well, I don't know. Why don't you go talk to them? Find out.
Right.
And usually they get, the answer that it kind of surprises them.
Right.
They didn't realize that they were, not skating fast enough, or, were not following the play correctly. So, good communication is really important, and your kids need to learn that lesson early.
And Christy, I'll add some practical advice to that that I love to do with parents, right? The kids should be speaking to the coach. And I'm actually going to say there's really not an age that's too young. The 8-year-old can't. Yes, they can. 6-year-olds, sure they can. The conversation's not going to be great, but they can have the conversation. But let's talk about actionable advice. If your kid is having a problem and they want to talk to the coach, okay, parents, first off, you want to set them up for success. Sit down. Write out questions. I tell the kids I coach all the time, great questions demand great answers. If you listen to this show for a long time, you've heard me say that. Going up to a coach and saying, why am I not playing more, is not a good question. And you're going to get the answer you would expect of aggression when you're not trying hard enough, blah, 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 blah. Okay. A great question is, I would like to earn more ice time. What actions can I take to earn more ice time? What are you seeing out there? Now, that's a great question. Coaches want to coach. Sit down with your kid, write out great questions. I have worked with parents where I've said, I want your kid to come with 3 questions prepared for the next practice for me so I can make them a better hockey player. We've got to teach our kids to do that. Now, disclaimer, not every coach is an awesome coach. You could go to a coach with a great question and they could give you a horrible answer. And my answer to you parents, is that fair? No, but you know what I'm going to say next? Neither is life. This is a life lesson. Okay, you're going to have bosses, you're going to have people you deal with that are not great. And you can tell your kid, I don't like the way your coach handled that, but that's the situation we're in, and we're going to persevere through the situation. I know it's painful, but that's life. We've said it a billion times. The ROI on the whole shebang is the life skills and the statistics, and I do not have them in front of me, but they are readily available. Kids who play youth sports are infinitely more prepared for collegiate world and the real world because of the adversity that they face. And I love the quote that in ice hockey, we face more adversity than a weekend than most people do in a month. You compound all those hockey weekends over that 10-year period, your kid's prepared. And it's our role as parents to guide them on that journey. Guide, not do it for them. The kids that I see fail after hockey, their parents did everything for them. You gotta let them fail, and it's gonna hurt. Like I'm now speaking from experience. It hurts. All right, but I will tell you, especially the younger parents, as I said before, the anxiety should reduce. Right? I've actually heard some parents that say it gets higher the older they get, and I believe that in terms of like when you're looking at colleges. But I don't know. Look, when I get there, I'll have a bit of a more, Christy, you've been through it.
Yeah.
Your daughter played D1.
And she's in law school now, and I can see those hockey skills kicking in, advocating for herself.
She drops the glove in the courtroom. Like, what'd you say? What did you just say?
She's really good in the courtroom.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Yeah. So it's funny how you do look back at some of the skills they learned at hockey and some of the little lessons that they learned along the way, especially when it comes to advocating for yourself.
Right.
Because both of my kids had experienced a time when a certain coach wasn't giving them the playing time that they think they deserved. And rather than me calling up the coach and interrogating them, I gave them the duty of finding out and having that conversation with the coach. And I can see it now playing out in their lives. Joey in his career, and Sophia, even at law school, she just last week had an issue with something and kind of questioning the professor as to how he was grading certain things. And she did what she had done so many times, as she advocated for herself, and
I love it.
had a great conversation. And it was very enlightening to her, a better understanding of, what the process was. So, yeah. Mike, you're being awfully quiet. Come on, we got to hear from you.
No, I love it. These are all great. I mean, I guess the strategy of being a parent and being able to have your own self-control, I think, is the number one thing you could do to make sure that your kids have some kind of self-control and less anxiety. And the reality is, some kids are going to be, whether you're your kid or not, they're going to be a better player on the ice. They're going to have a bigger role. And I think it's your job And it's hard. It's nearly impossible to look at your son or daughter without rose-colored glasses. I mean, it's really hard to be like, and not compare them. Well, so-and-so is not doing this. Why isn't my kid getting this? And so-and-so does this, and my kid does, so I find my own personal anxiety is that I look at things through the lens of a coach. Like I look at things through the lens of, maybe not the best player on the ice, but who's a glue guy, who's the guy who you're going to step like to me, I love little things like kids picking up pucks and kids cleaning up the bench and kids being the last one in the locker room to clean up. And those are expectations like I expect out of my kid. And I guess in a lot of ways I go, well, a coach will notice that. And the reality is most youth coaches don't notice it because they're just not coaches. They just happen to be on the bench, running lines.
Like you noticed it.
Well, I noticed it. I noticed it from other kids. I'm like, man, that kid really should get, that kid made what a great play that, not even my own kid. Like I'll look at other parents. I don't, by the way, the disclaimer, I don't sit with other parents. I don't talk to other parents.
You're that guy.
I don't like other parents. I just let
them.
Mike, this is a show. People listen to the show.
Well, but that's fine. You can listen to the show and just sit in the corner by yourself.
I love being with the parents.
Yeah, I'm not a big like. It's just because it's just hard for me to keep my mouth shut. Be like, no, that's not really the reality of it. Like your kid is good, yes, but you know what? That whole play got made because of this, or that whole thing happened because of that. And we talked about just a little while ago about we blame goalies, like last line of defense, right? But the thing was, none of that would have ever happened if your kid didn't try to go, west across the ice against 5 players. But yes, and that's where when we talked about the emotional stability of a parent, I know where my emotions are going to go. So I extract myself from that situation.
I can respect that, Mike,
because I know that I'm going to be like, okay, you want to have an argument about this? Because I'm not going to lose the argument. No. I'm going to make my point, but by making your point, you just alienate yourself because a lot of the people you're talking to don't have the ability to parse what that even is.
Yeah. And Mike, one of the things that you're actually making me think of real quick is that one of the reasons this show is so great is because we all have very different personalities. We're all different parents and different types of people in the game. And I love that because I enjoy sitting with the parents. So I'm a bit of a chatterbox. I mean, people know that, but I just enjoy the camaraderie and stuff like that. I'm not saying you can't do this, Mike, but I actually enjoy sometimes separating the coach from the parent for myself. And when I'm in the stands, I hear things I don't agree with, but I kind of just compartmentalize that away of I'm not coaching right now. Right. I did want to say this too, kind of turn the conversation a little bit. Christie, you're talking about your kids. You are such a great role model for your kid. You're such a tremendous person. And where I'm going with this, I was sitting with Christie's son a couple years ago, and I had asked him, what is it like to grow up with a mother who is a news anchor? And again, for those of you who might be new, Christie is an award-winning news anchor in Syracuse. She is a news lady. She's on the news. She's on the TV every day. Okay. She's got 2 schmucks with her on this show. I can't believe she shows up every week, but that's who Christie is. And her son said the most curious response. He said, well, it was always a little weird sharing mom with the entire community, but she was always there for us. And she was always encouraging us and teaching us what to do. Now, where I'm going with this is this. If Christie can be shared with the entire Syracuse metro area and still find the time to mentor her kids, we all can, right? And Christie, this is why I always say you're such a mentor to me, right? And by the way, have a wonderful attitude while doing it, all right? The thing is this, and this is where I'm going with this, all right? And this is new for me this year. My mother-in-law was in town from Puerto Rico this past week. Okay. Surprise visit. And for the first time, I think ever, with no anxiety, I messaged the coach and said, hey, look, my mother-in-law's here. I'm going to keep Logan home from practice tonight to spend some time with her. 3 years ago, never would have thought to do that. Right now, some of this is life experience. My mother passed away a few years ago, so I have some perspective on that. But just the understanding, and I'm going to say this very pointedly to everybody. I love the game of ice hockey a lot. I mean, there's few things in this world I love more than ice hockey, but the one big one is my family. And I'm able now at where I'm at in my life to recognize that there's no practice, there's no game there's nothing that's more important than him getting this time with her. And I messaged the coach, and Mike, to your credit, I did say, hey, listen, here's what's happening. If it's okay with you, can we excuse Logan from practice tonight? I didn't say he's missing. All right. And, what do you think the response was? Of course. Absolutely. Please spend the time with his grandmother. I think we all need to do a gut check on that type of stuff too, because I think we're missing a lot of big moments for hockey sometimes. And it's actually the non-hockey people that have taught me you don't need to miss that time with your family, right? Because you don't know how much time you have with your family. So I think we're talking about quelling anxiety. My anxiety was quelled with that decision of like, why am I putting the game ahead of this? So this is kind of real talk. I took it a little more serious, but I did want to throw that to both of you, right? Because it can be very hard, Christie, for Mike and I to say, no, we have hockey. And it's like, sometimes you got to say, no, I've got family.
All right? Glad you said that, especially after what my family has been through.
You've been through hell.
My husband, who was the greatest hockey dad that ever lived, he passed away. It's almost 3 years now. And he always made family a priority, always. If there was a choice between, heading to a tournament because, we had to be there and coaches are putting pressure, we got to have your kid there. But if it was a family event that was really precious, it would have meant a lot to family, then he would pick family over hockey every time. So, and I always, no matter what, made time for my kids, even if it meant dragging them to public appearances. So, I'd have to be at the state fair every day. Come on, kids, you go to the state fair. You're going to help me, sign autographs. We're going to do the milkshake contest together. I always made sure to include them in everything that I could.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. And they have those great memories. And I have no regrets. I can say that because the time is so fleeting. I have no regrets.
I loved your son's response, Christie. It was so full of love.
How many shades of red am I now? Like 20 shades of
you've
red.
got that.
That was so sweet. Yeah.
Your kids are so great.
Yeah, I do have 2 great kids. Yeah. But and hockey was such a big part of our life, which is fantastic. But we didn't make it our life,
right?
Which is really important,
right?
Yeah.
And Mike, I'll throw it to you. But Christie, what you just said, I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and again, Mike and I, it literally is our professional life, but it's not. It doesn't overtake my family, guys. I don't know how to say that any more blunt. Like, my family comes first. Now, I will say this. I know not everybody has a wonderful family situation, and I don't want to gloss over that, right? I know spending time with family for some people is not a joy. Okay, so but priority wise, it's okay to have some things that are above hockey, right? If your kids, things like that. Mike, I do want to get your thoughts on this too.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts probably have changed over the years a bit. I mean, I probably wish I would have done more family stuff when my kids were younger and forego the hockey a little bit. But I think what happens is, like, I don't know, the positions I've been in, like as a hockey director or a lead coach on a I would say, pretty important teams. These aren't like, a rec team or something. These are teams that are, take months in the making and big schedules and juggling 20 families, other families' rosters and their time. Like, so I don't know, from my perspective, I think, and this is for a parent too, to like really look at your coaches and understand how much they sacrifice for your family. Like, it's easy for you as a parent to say, you know what, we're going to choose to go with this family event on this tournament weekend. But for the head coach, that's the family person, they now have to answer to 20 other families. Like, they don't get to just take the one family out. You're leaving, like, it's the one person leaving 20 families, not one person extracting themselves out. So it's a little different, I think, from a coaching parent perspective, because I don't know, and maybe it was not even, maybe it wasn't justified, but I would feel the pressure of, well, I'm the one that scheduled the tournament on Thanksgiving weekend. I probably should be there. Like, I probably should be the one that, I can't just I'm going to schedule Christmas and a New Year's tournament. Oh, but by the way, my family is more important to me. So I'm going to go, I'm going to go spend time.
Well, let me just clarify. We would always, at the beginning of the season, let them know. Oh, by the way, we have this event coming up, just so you know.
And there's no doubt,
we don't, hit them, blindside them with, we're not showing up to the tournament.
No
doubt
about
like that.
But I think that's why when we have these conversations all the time, we're like, but that's where you have to be, lay your parameters at the beginning of the year. If you're a coach that doesn't care about, being home for Thanksgiving with your family, then make the point of saying, listen, we're going to our Thanksgiving tournament. Do we all want to go to this?
Right.
And if 18 other families say yes, then you go for it. But don't on the Monday of Thanksgiving say, oh, by the way, I know we scheduled Thanksgiving tournament, but I can't be there.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that we would never blindside.
And it's funny, so because
my
life changed as a hockey coach. Like when I had kids, like before I had kids, I'd have literally, I'd have no problem having practice on New Year's Day.
Yeah, why not?
None. I'd be like, 7 a.m. practice. What an unbelievable time! The rink's empty. We're gonna have everybody at the rink.
We've done that. And it is a great time, honestly, because there's no one around. It's the best time to skate.
But then when you're
a parent and you're sitting there going, "Oh yeah, Halloween." I mean, every year I watch programs do the same thing. The Tuesday of the Halloween week, they cancel practice on Halloween. I'm like, it's the 31st.
Right.
All the time, isn't it the 31st?
Well,
whatever it is. So you don't even put it on the schedule.
Well, this is what I did, and this was a victory in my mind. We have our elementary school practices on Friday. Halloween was on a Friday this year, so we put it out to the parents earlier, like who wants to be there. We had 6 kids sign up. I live very close to the rink. My kids wanted to skate. I said to the head coach, "It's optional for you. I'll show up. I'll run through a fun skate for an hour. It's 4:00. It's not like it's trick or treating time." I had a great time, but I didn't take it seriously in the sense of I didn't put together a full practice plan. We just did some good stuff and had fun for the 6 kids who wanted to be there. With that said, Mike, you brought up a great point. It's all about perspective. For the young coaches listening, I understand. This is not a bad thing. Mike's right. We didn't have the perspective when we were young on Thanksgiving. All we wanted to do is hockey. Parents might want to take off, and you got to understand that. That's why on every team I've been on now, there's a poll at the beginning of the year of what tournaments can you do you want to do? And the best managers wrote, there's no pressure. If you don't want to do it, say no. That's okay. But yeah, like spending that time with family, gang, it's really important. Or just time away from the rink in general can be very important. You can't just do it to do it. But I just want to let the families out there know that it's okay. It's okay to spend some time with the family over hockey. Look, I want to round this episode out with a question. We always talk about the hockey community. I had said earlier, it takes a village, right? Communally, we can do better at quelling anxiety for each other. All right. I think what happens with specifically parents is we all kind of lock ourselves in our own emotional stress in our brains and end up kind of acting like, oh, everything's fine when you're really going through something. It's not super healthy. Now, I'm not saying you need to go to the rink and make it a therapy session in any way. That's not where I'm going. But I think it's okay to share with each other whatever you're feeling sometimes about what's going on, right? So the question is before us, what can we do as a hockey community to better support the emotional wellness of parents and not just players and coaches? I think players are getting actually a pretty healthy dose of this now, which is wonderful for the work that I have, all right? Mental health, mental fitness is a very big thing now, right? What can we do for the families? Is it something that the coach needs to do at the beginning of the year? Is it something that a parent leader should be opening up? And again, I'm not talking about kumbaya here. I don't want anybody to think that. What can we do as a community to make this a better environment for the parents out there? Because we're all feeling it, like I said.
Well, we can all step up, right? There was one year where a mom on the team was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she had 4 other kids.
Right.
So everybody on that team stepped up to help her out when she was, going through her treatments or, her chemotherapy, and she was weak and tired. And hey, you know what? We got you. We got you. Yeah. So we would all step up. We'd take the kid to practice, or bring her food. Babysit the other kids. So there are things we can do. Be observant. A lot of times they're not going to ask for help, these parents who are struggling or might be going through some difficulties. But use your power of observation. You can tell when someone is having a rough time. And then, you quietly ask them, what can I do to help you? Can I, I'll take your kid to practice. They can stay in the hotel with us. You stay home this weekend. Get your rest you need. Yeah.
That's a great suggestion, Christine.
Right. There's lots we can do. You don't need an organization to do it. You can do it individually.
I think that's why it's so strong, so important to have strong managers and strong people in the stands that are going to help you as a coach too. Have the ability to kind of know what's going on, the pulse of the team and the pulse of the stands, and what's being said out in the hallway, and like, oh, I heard we're going to go to this tournament. Can you believe it? And all of a sudden, like 5 or 6 people want to go, 5 don't want to go, or you're going to play a team that you're going to get your doors blown off by, and that anxiety already builds up in parents, and they start like projecting that to the kids. So I think knowing that, and to your point, Christy, be observant. Don't just walk through the hall with your head down. Find advocates on your team, parents that can help you, and are willing to say, hey, listen, so and so is really struggling. Don't you know that their father just passed away, or don't you know that something happened at home, or the person just lost their job, or you can't just go through the youth. It's a long season. It's a lot of time together. If you don't know anything about what's going on with your team, off the ice, then it's a hard way to coach nowadays, unless you really know kind of the whole picture of what people are going through. And if you can't do it as a coach, then try to get somebody that can help you, like that nosy mom or something. Just get her involved and say, hey, listen, I need you to tell me what's going on here, because I need your help. Because I want to be able to be, there for the rest of the families.
I love that, Mike. And again, messages. This goes back to earlier in the episode too. It's okay for coaches to tell their players, hey, look, we're a team that's going to help people, right? We help each other. Or families, you can tell your kids that we help each other. Now, of course, you got to advise them to the dangers of not just blindly helping people. But if you're in a team community, we're going to help each other. We're going to take this kid to practice, like you said, Christy. We talked earlier about how do we exhibit this behavior for our kids? Well, you come together for each other. I think that's a really important thing. And I'll tell you what, the hockey community is tremendous when people are in need. Okay. And I'm not shortchanging that with this comment. I wish we could do that when people weren't necessarily in need also. Right. There's nothing going to stop the hockey community. Like you said, Christy, someone is fighting an illness or lost a loved one. We always come together in those moments. I would love to see us doing that, not in those moments as well. And I think a lot of people do. I'm not trying to downplay that. Okay. Because I say this all the time. I care so much for the kids that I coach. Mike, I know you do too. Like, we really care about your kids, right? And I know you do too, right? I know you think about the other kids on the ice too, especially if you're listening to the show. The person who's not doing that's not listening to the show. And if you are, hey, welcome aboard. Listen, I'm going to close it out on this, that we all love this game, right? Or we tolerate the game, one or the other, but it shouldn't come at the cost of your well-being, right? And if you're out there and you're feeling stretched thin, or you're second guessing yourself, you're tired, I think it's just really important to know you're not alone, right? We all feel that, right? And this game does provide quite a bit of anxiety, right? So just remember, you're not alone. We're here for you. And we have to say it, right, gang, that if you are feeling this and you don't know who to talk to, write us an email, okay? And it doesn't have to go on the air. Just write us a message. Write us an email, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com, or use the link in the description. You guys hear me say that every episode. If you just want to talk about it. For those of you listening, we get emails like that all the time. Not every email we get, actually most of them, go on the air, right? This is the community. So that's my final thought. Christy, I'll let you have the final.
No, it's a great community.
Yeah.
And you can be a part of something really positive and great. Hopefully you won't, be that negative influence, because those people stick out of my mind. I'm looking back, I can picture them now. And I can also honestly think of all the people that really, stepped up personally for my family, after we lost my husband. And during the years when, families went through difficult times, they stick out in your mind. And you're just really grateful for the fact that we were a part of something really special, which is hockey.
Yeah. Those are the memories that stick with you, by the way, just to echo Mike before. Those people who took care of you, and I remember those people, right? Yeah, Mike, did you have one more thing? You're pointing at me.
No. No, Chris is right. You guys are right. I mean, it's just, make the best, make it, if you want to have a great program, then help make it a great program. I mean, if you want to, have a positive environment for your kids, and then make a positive environment for your kids. I mean, people are never going to, look at you like, oh, I can't believe this guy wants to do another team party, or this guy wants to do another, buy everybody a cup of coffee in the morning. Just be a good person and be there and know and look across at somebody in the stands. And you don't have to confront them like in front of everyone else. You could just say, hey, listen, wow, I really, I've been a part of the game a long time. I saw that you struggled there a little bit with your kids' playing time. Let me give you an example of what happened with my kid with his playing time, or whatever. I mean, right. you could just say, listen, oh, those stinks. And, that happened to me 2 years ago. And guess what? Now my kid got over it, and he doesn't even remember it, So
hey, jerk face, we're all dealing with it. Okay. Okay, we all got problems, buddy.
You could also do that approach.
Yeah. If you want to be on my live bar,
you're special out there.
If you want to be on my live bar, click in clip of the week. Do that. But I think I think it's just one of those, one of those things where you just we tell it to the kids, right, in the locker room. Be a good kid.
Yeah.
Be a good person, and look out for your teammates. And I think that because of hockey, and it's not like soccer and football, like. It's so big, like soccer, the field is huge. People are all over the place. Football, it's huge. You're not, maybe the only other thing you can think about is maybe basketball, because you're in a confined space. But in hockey, you're literally for about 12 minutes every game. You're all confined in this tiny little 15 by 15 box between two doors of cold freezing weather and cold freezing weather. And you're stuck in the middle there with a cup of coffee, waiting for your game to start. Make the best of it.
It's the best. It seems apropos to end the episode on this. You're not crazy. The hockey world's crazy. That should put that on a t-shirt. All right. That's going to do it for this episode. Christie, I'm sorry. We told you would have the last word.
No. Hockey world is crazy.
There we go. I like it. All right, gang. That's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. A tremendous little episode here with the three of us. We're wishing you all the best on your hockey journey. We'll see you next time. Remember, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com, or find the link accompanying this episode in the description. Send us a message, your name, where you're from, what you'd like us to discuss, or just what you want to talk about. We're here for you. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you next time on Our Kids Play Hockey. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.